Jeremy.
And this is Joey.
And this is Dead South Paranormal. All right, that's out of the way. All right, so welcome everybody to the show. This is our very first show, and we thought we'd take the time today to introduce ourselves, who we are, how we got to where we are now, and kind of take it from there. So, Joey, you'd like to go first?
Sure. Well, I'm Joey Campbell. Some of my friends also call me Joseph, and I'm from a small town in the low country of South Carolina called Earhart. And I don't know, I've been interested in the paranormal probably most of my life. We all have these things that we see, hear, but can't explain. And I think that's the biggest thing, Jeremy, is that when I walk into something like this, something like an investigation, I'm not there to try to find some full-bodied formed apparition. I'm more interested in just the things we can't explain. I'm not saying they're ghosts. I'm not saying they're demons or anything like that. But what can we document that we can't, through modern science, actually come up with a definitive answer to what it is? And I think if we do that, then I think we are well on our path to legitimizing some of the stuff that has been placed out there. But I really enjoy doing it. I'm married, wife, 2 kids, house full of animals, things like that, yard full of chickens. So that's a little bit about me. I play a little bit of music here and there every now and again, and that's pretty much the way life goes.
Yeah. And, me and Joey known each other for quite a while. I'm from the South Carolina, down in the low country as well. Don't live too far from Joey here. And we kind of have this kinship between us where we are fascinated by those things that we can't explain, those things that go bump in the night. One thing I can say is that, because I'm going to say this now to go ahead and get it out the way, but where we're actually located at now was, we just recently did an investigation here, me and Joey, and we're putting together videos for that. And so you can go check that out. Look us up on YouTube, Dead South Paranormal. And, so there's that, but I agree with you, because I had a lot of strange things that, and I guess this could apply to most anything, but it seems like we've always heard all our life, hey, you go looking for trouble, you'll find it. And so right. it seems to be that, after the investigation, I had a whole slew of things that kind of got introduced into my life that have never ever happened to me before. And we'll get into all that later, but, it is kind of funny. And I do agree with you. It's not trying to prove that what we're hearing or what we're seeing or what has occurred is in fact a ghost, but just to understand exactly what it is. Because some of these things, if you look hard enough, you can find a logical explanation for it. But also on the same hand, there are so many instances out there that are like, what happened? And a lot of the times in the moment, especially given that environment that you put yourself in, you have kind of conditioned, whether you realize it or not, you kind of condition yourself to kind of go along with just about everything that's going on around you. Oh, what was that? What was that? What was that?
I agree.
But also on the same hand, it's like, I don't see anything over there making that noise. I don't see anything moving in front of me or things of that nature. So if I don't see anything, because seeing is believing, if I don't see anything, whatever's left is, that's the reasoning behind it. And, what's the old Sherlock Holmes adage? Trying to think how that goes, but once you've taken away everything else, whatever's left, no matter how impossible, that's what it is.
Yeah, I liken it. I'm, my job, I'm in the medical field. And so I am highly reliant on science and empirical evidence. And I read case studies after case studies of everything that goes on in medicine. But there's one thing that's almost, I'll say nearly infallible, and it's a theory called Occam's razor. And for those of you who don't know what Occam's razor is, it simply means the simplest, most direct answer is usually the most correct answer. So if you can easily disprove it, then obviously that's more than likely the answer. But through a series of trials and testing, if it cannot be easily disproved, then the answer's still out there. And I think that's where we are, is they're still out there a lot of times, that we are concerned about, some people kind of picked up on that we were actually starting something. I was like, oh, I got to go meet Jeremy and do this stuff. And they're like, what are y'all doing? And so I kind of give them a little promise, say, hey, we're going to be doing some investigations and stuff like that. And it was surprising how many people almost felt relieved that somebody was doing that in this area. We've been invited. Our first night's investigation was here in the Earhart Town Hall, and it was an old school from around the Civil Rights era, and was recently closed in the early 2000s as a school, and the town bought it. But several of the employees that work here said, I want you to come in and do my office specifically. I want y'all to come back because we've seen this. And since, and I'm no spoilers here, since we've gone through the evidence, they're like, yes, on some things. And so I'm really excited that the people around that have heard, are talking about it a little more. And I hope that opens up some more doors in the future as well, that people are a little more, open-minded, and not so struck on some, almost dogma, whether it would be some type of, belief system, or whether it would be any, just what the parents told them or whatever. I think that's
satanic panic.
Yeah. That was the satanic panic of the 60s and 70s. That was real. It was a psychosomatic thing. But, however, that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking to document evidence, and taking that evidence and placing it placing it up to scrutiny, and then determining what we want, or determining what it actually is, I should say. So it was really, really exciting when you first reached out to me, and it's like, I'm interested in this. And I was like, oh man, I am too. And I had bought a lot of equipment just to kind of do some stuff on our own. So it kind of became this natural thing as well. Yeah. That we had this mutual, we've known each other for a long time. I was like, essentially kind of since high school almost.
Yeah, almost.
And then through other means and things like that. And then to have these similarities, and we both kind of be independently working on it was kind of interesting. And then coming together, I think it's going to be the best of both worlds. And we've gotten a lot of support from our families on that as well, too. Yeah. So.
Yeah, definitely. And back to what you were saying, and I just want to clarify this for my own being, but like Joey said, just because we're doing this, it does not mean that, we're playing with Ouija boards or trying to summon anything or conjure anything like that. That's not what we're here for. This is just like any other type of scientific, observation. Yep. And so we go in, you're asking questions, you document the response, and, you kind of, because basically what we did and the way we did our very first investigation, we split up, and he was in one end, I was on the other. And with that being said, so we weren't around each other. That way we didn't have really any kind of influence on what the other one was finding. We had our own experiences, and the crazy part about it was, and the thing that kind of blew me away was there was a lot of correlation between the two.
Yes.
And that is something I don't think that's something that you can recreate. I don't think that's something that you can fabricate to begin with. Although I may be wrong. I don't know everything. But it is what it is. And I know there's a lot of naysayers when it comes to these topics. A lot of people that don't believe in it, they don't put any stock into it, and that's perfectly okay. We're not here to change people's minds. We're just here to simply, like Joey said, document and share that with you guys. We're not doctoring anything up. We're not putting in any kind of special effects. We don't have time for that, to be honest with you.
No, we both work full-time jobs on our own. And number two, I'm definitely not smart enough to do any of that.
Lord knows.
But no, I think that's the big thing is that maybe it will sway some minds, and other people have listened to some of the recordings, I'm sure. I know I had somebody listen to a specific recording that I had, and they immediately went from skepticism to oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
And the other side to that is that I want to go back to one thing. One of our rules, we kind of started in the beginning, said, what is this thing going to be? One of our rules is that there is no conjuring, there is no Ouija boards. We're not doing those type things. We're not inviting anything to cross over for any apparent reason whatsoever. We both believe there's probably enough here for all of us. But the other thing is that Jeremy and I don't really communicate a whole lot before an investigation. So we don't have this set. We have goals that we want, we'll set goals we want to meet, and may have a plan on how we want to split up and for lack of a better word, attack the building or whatever, or how we're going to move about it and things like that. Other than that, we operate fairly independently. So when we have similar experiences, I think just that, and you'll see that in the videos, it is, it kind of speaks for itself for those types of, unique situations that you'll run into, and those unique responses we get. And then in this, last investigation, we did come together, and, we didn't have anything. And actually we were kind of both really frustrated that nothing happened until, going to review the videos and,
all of a sudden, all this evidence starts to pour itself out on the table, and you're like, well, it's kind of odd, because, parapsychology, there is really nothing, there's no real science behind it. And so nothing scientifically has been proven. So it really almost doesn't have a leg to stand on. But so many people in the world that have experienced these and have ghost stories and say, hey, something happened. I saw someone standing at the edge of my bed last night. I saw a dark shadow looking at me from around the corner, whatever the situation is. Those people, there just can't be that many people experiencing the same thing. And there's got to be something more to it than just, random acts.
Yeah, I truly believe it is. And, I'll go back and this is a joke to all my psychologists and psychiatry friends, but, we talk about parapsychology, and there's the history of the science is, a little confusing at best, and has been tainted by a lot of bad providers, if you used it in almost a medical sense. I would argue to say some psychology is done the same way too, but the simple fact is that most people have had an experience.
Exactly.
And that's the biggest thing. Now, whether or not they're willing to admit that, I fully understand that as well. That's, for a grown human being to admit they saw something that they can't explain, it's easier for them to put that in the back of their mind or in their subconscious and forget about it.
Exactly.
But if we go back into psychology in a way, those memories are always there.
Right.
When we think about memories of, lost loved ones and stuff like that, 20 years later, they could affect us. And, that may be even something that if we go into somewhere and we are able to maybe just provide closure for somebody in the realm of what do I have going on? Fortunately, my education came through theology and religion. So we're both believers.
Yes.
But on the other side to that is that I can also understand the in between.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing, and giving people an opportunity. And I feel that I and you both have a strong sense of malevolence versus benevolence and
right.
things like that. So being able to tell people, what specifically we believe could be, disturbing them or interacting with them, I should say, for the most part, may give them some sense of peace and some understanding, and remove some of the stressors from their life as well. And I think that's an important component of any of this. This isn't something that you can always put your finger on. It's always a lot of intuition. It's always a lot of hours and hours and hours of listening to videos at very high volumes, going through those videotapes a lot of times. And literally I had to sit there and just kind of block off quarters or pieces of the screen just to focus on an area to make sure I wasn't missing anything. And so all of this on top of full-time careers and full-time families and all that stuff, it's a lot. But on the other side of it, I really feel excited about the future in it as well. So that's where I am. And we all know we live in the South, and, there's a bunch of ghost stories down here, y'all. There is a bunch of them. Every town's got their own ghost stories, and every building in every town has their own, haunts. So, there's a lot to work from here. And I think, anybody that lives down here has heard the stories.
Oh yeah.
And that's the cool part about it is, and maybe a lot of them have lived them. But I think what really is important is that we talk a little bit about what the building here.
Okay.
So again, back in, this school was constructed in the, kind of during the civil rights era. And the building of this school was the result of the, Supreme Court decision that occurred up in, Clarendon County.
There you go.
About, integration of schools. And a lot of the, people in charge at the time were not for that. And again, not to say anything, but that was just a different time in history,
Well, I'll say it like this, and this is the best way I can describe for those of you who don't know or never been down here to the South. I'll say it like this. We're a far cry from where we once were, but also on the same hand, there's not a acre or square mile that you could possibly step on out here that isn't tainted with, whether it be, bad or good blood, it's been spilled. And so it's just one of those things. It's in our past, and we've got to move forward from there. Hopefully a lot of people have learned their lessons, and, whether it's justice or injustice, it is what it is, and it's there. And,
but this school was, the state of South Carolina, in matter of factly, and this is commonly known, the state of South Carolina actually was providing monies to communities to create these schools for the African American population.
Correct.
This school was one of them. And so for several years after the civil rights era, it operated as a segregated school. And then later on it was desegregated and became a county-wide component of the educational system. So this school here has been here since the 60s. This building's been here since the 60s. And then in the early 2000s, it was shut down as the Bamberg County School District decided they were going to kind of realign everything and consolidate a lot of stuff. Town of Earhart bought it and have been using it as their town hall for several years, well over 10 or 12 years. The majority of this building sits untouched.
Yeah.
There's only about 4 or 5 rooms. And when I say a school, a lot of people want to think about the current high school they have. This building could fit in the gymnasium of most high schools now. It is It's probably 30 rooms in a cafeteria and a library and kind of stuff like that. Yeah. It's not gigantic whatsoever. It probably only covers a quarter acre of total space, including gymnasium and stuff like that. It's not big at all. However, the majority of it goes unused, and much of it has been undisturbed since the Bamberg County School District sold it, and the library still has all the library books.
Yeah, and that's something you'll see in the videos as well, because part of my investigation was I was in the library, I was in some of those classrooms, and there's glasses still sitting up in a closet somewhere. All these materials and stuff that these teachers used to use and provide for their children, it's all kind of still sitting there collecting dust, unfortunately, but it's still there. And that's one thing. It's almost like I kind of felt like, almost like an Indiana Jones type of adventure where you were going down, you went to your grandma or your granddad's basement and you found this old trunk with this dust covered on it, and you just wiped it all off, and, you just didn't know what you were going to find inside. And I kind of felt that way whenever we, first approached it, because now, Joey, you actually went to school here at one point. Is that correct?
No. I was I was in and out of here a little bit.
Okay.
I always went to the private school up the road. But as an adult, as a young adult, I was on the fire department. And
I got you.
I was in the building a lot doing fire prevention and stuff like that. So, and I knew several of the teachers, several of the aides. It's a fact we got the name of one of the aides on one of our videos.
Yeah.
But knew a lot of the teachers and the aides that were working here as I was a young adult, younger adult. Well, I'm not that old, but, I had never ventured really into the cafeteria areas and stuff like that. It was all kind of just the classrooms and the front end of it. And of course, this is where we come to vote from the Earhart area. So that was about the extent of my experience in the building. So a lot of it was, some of y'all will remember this, some of you won't. It was kind of like the Toys R Us moment for me when we came in here. It was like, it was almost overwhelming with nostalgia.
Yeah.
But on the other side had this eeriness to it of, why wouldn't something be here was kind of the question.
Yeah.
Undisturbed, can kind of do its own thing without being pestered or messed with.
But yeah, our job is to observe and to take that into account. But one thing that I enjoyed that we did with this investigation was the fact that we went into it. Yes, Joey is familiar with the building, but maybe not with all of its history. Me, I was unfamiliar. I knew the building. I knew what it once was. I know what it is now. And that's about the extent of what I knew as far as going in here. But we did the investigation, and then we took, as we were going through everything, that's when you kind of pulled up some of the articles and stuff that he had found as far as what correlates to the history of the building and the school and what it once was to what it is today. And it was amazing what we kind of figured out with some of the evidence that we actually captured on, whether it be audio or video or whatever, that some of that stuff actually correlated to what the history was beforehand. So it's not like we learned the history before and then kind of went into it. I was like, oh, that must be the so-and-so that was mentioned in this story. I mean, it's great to hear those stories, but also it's really easy to be influenced by those stories.
No, I think more so than anything, that's one of the big things, is that a lot of people become influenced ahead of time.
Right.
And one of the things that I try to do professionally, as well as this, is that any decisions I make or anything I review, I require of my people for me to have a clean slate. Don't send me something to review for you and then tell me what you think when you send it. Cause I'm gonna read it. I'm human,
Yeah.
And the more I try not to read it, it's like, I wonder what they said. Man, if I just agreed with it, make your job easier. That's the facts. But no, I require a clean slate. I want to not know. That way I can formulate as an objective opinion as I can about it, give that back to them, then we talk about it together. Right. And I think doing almost a reverse investigation, if you want to coin that, is the proper way to do it, because then the evidence stands for itself.
I agree.
And if it doesn't correlate with anything, then I think we ask, is it truly evidence?
This is true.
So, I think that's definitely a little more scientific, in that aspect, or at least a little more, if, I don't want to throw the word scientific out there too much, because somebody definitely will take offense to that, but it does add significant legitimacy to it. And that is, critical importance. 100%. So, I hope that, what we are able to do between our investigations and our podcasts, that we're able to explain a lot of things. I've been working past couple weeks on some new spots down in the Walterboro area, so Colleton County, that has a rich history. Mm-hmm. And when I say rich, it is the low country of South Carolina, so it's wrought with, blood on every piece of grass out there at times. Yeah. But we have a lot to look forward to, and nobody's ever really told the stories down here. Nobody's ever, I shouldn't say tell the stories, they've told the stories. They haven't really looked into them a lot. Yeah. Some people, it'll be mentioned on, you can go to a website and go haunted places in South Carolina, and you'll find stuff around here. But the reality of it is, it's a lot of the oral tradition that you were talking about, prior to, the 20s and 30s, there was a lot of that oral tradition, because even though paper was around, people couldn't read or write it a lot of times.
Very true.
So a lot of things was passed on just verbally. And, now the old folks telling those stories, those old folks, unfortunately are moving on, and a lot of those stories are getting lost if they're not recorded somewhere. And I'm hoping that we are helpful in that revival of those oral traditions as well, as much as supporting, the things that people are saying about having spiritual encounters with ghosts. I want to go back just a moment, and that inevitably this is going to be what happens, is that we're coming in with all of the greatest intentions, and we are not in any way inviting anything negative into our world here. But inevitably, we're going to run across that
eventually,
and that's something that happens. I hear the stories from people already about what they think is a possession, or what they think is a demonic haunting, or malevolent experience. We're not going to shy away from that. I want to go back. We're not going to shy away from that. The simple fact is that we can't. But to reiterate, we're not going out drawing that to us.
Exactly.
We're going in open-minded, clean slate, and gathering evidence. Whatever that evidence leads to, whatever conclusion that evidence leads to, is that conclusion.
Right.
And we will cross those bridges when we get there sometimes, is the only way to put it like that. So I don't want to say, oh, you're never going to see us deal with malevolent spirits in our podcast or in our videos, because that's just not true. It will eventually happen. What we want to do is be able to mitigate those situations, and get the right people in to mitigate. We are not exorcists. We would not attempt anything like that, but get the right people in for those conditions to, especially if it's affecting people, to help those people.
Yeah, you kind of you were, you led into where I was thinking too. Cause I was like, this is a whole conversation me and him had before we even started all this was, and he kind of told me a situation where he was in where he was not equipped for, what he encountered and, kind of went from there. And I feel the same way, I would not want to, that's like taking me and putting me in, handing me a scalpel. All right, doctor, are you ready to?
I might as well be flying the space shuttle, to be honest with you, man.
I'm telling you. But one thing I wanted to address here too, because I don't think it's actually been addressed, but, think what you want, but do I believe in something else? Absolutely. I believe in what we're doing. I believe that in what we're capturing, but also on the same hand, I'm kind of like on the fence. And the reason I say that is because I have seen, I am more, I'll put it this way. I'm more of a believer now than I have ever been, especially after this whole investigation. Now, given I've been out investigating before, but nothing to this extent, nowhere near this extent. And with that being said, the things that I have experienced during the investigation and afterward, cause you can ask Joey, there's a whole plethora of things and we'll get into that later. There's a whole, I was messaging him every day almost. Joey, you noticed anything weird? Hey, Joey, this just happened. Hey, Joey, I might need some help. But
how big of a roll of sage do you need? That was unique. And, the thing about it is that neither one of us have done this as professionals before.
Yeah.
And, and whether or not, maybe I think, jokingly, obviously, but I think the haints that were in your house to start with got mad that you went stepping out on them. That's all it was.
Yeah. And so if anybody out there wondering what the word that Joey just used, that's a haint, as in haint blue. Otherwise, it's a haunt, a haunting, a ghost, whatever have you. So,
you're going to hear us talk like that a lot. I call them haints a lot of times. That's how I grew up. And haint blue is the color you would see painted houses, porches, and doors, or at least the porch floor and the porch ceiling would be painted haint blue. It mimics water, and spirits couldn't pass through water, so that was to ward off unwanted spirits, and that goes back to the Geechee Gullah tradition, the coastal Geechee Gullah tradition of South Carolina, and another rich cultural thing that is amazing to look at. But
absolutely.
So it is, when you started texting those things, I was like, I don't think we really brought anything back, but I really think it stirred the spirits up in your house, to be honest.
Well, see, that's the weird part about it is I've never experienced anything like this at all. Now, given I've been in my house, only a handful of years, but it's just very odd that you go out and you do this, and then I'll tell you this much, okay? And without giving too many examples away here, but it started after I got home, and for the past couple of weeks, things were really weird. A lot of things that I have never experienced at home before, things I could just not chalk up, things it got me to the point where every little sound that I was hearing, I was like, what was that? And I'd have to go investigate. And so I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. I know I'm hearing this because my wife was hearing it as well. And so with that being said, I finally had enough of it, and I was at the house, and I think this was about 2 weeks ago now. I was at the house, and it was the beginning of the week, and I kept hearing things. And I was like, you know what? I bet my darn cats is up to something. I went and found my cat. Couldn't find my cat. Well, oddly enough, the cat was in the room where I was. So, no, it wasn't the cat. I immediately had enough. I went and opened the front and the back door, and I told it to leave. I said, normally I'm more than hospitable, but you came without my permission. You have to leave. You have to leave now. And I repeated that several times. And then in the name of Jesus Christ, I did that just in case. I have not had any problems since. So whether it be a mind thing or whether it be a faith thing or whether it be, something that had actually attached itself and was brought home to me, I don't know. And I'll get into that a little bit later because some of the audio I captured kind of ties into that. And it's really odd to see because it was hard to see during the investigation, but once we got everything home and Joey shared some stuff that he had on his video and his audio with me, and I did the same with him. But once everything had been through, it's really weird because I seen a kind of a story, a narrative appear, and I was like, are you kidding me? And that's the type of stuff I'm like, you can't. You could really try if you wanted to really disprove it. I'm sure you could, but also on the same hand, it kind of goes back to there are no coincidences. It's just great.
I would offer that you would have to be immensely creative to even create something like.
No, I agree.
That's not something that the average person could think of, and I'm very, very average. But, I have not had any experiences. The worst thing that scares me is I'll walk outside at night and there's a possum on my back porch. That's just what it is. However, I have not had any of the experiences Jeremy had post investigation. But my house is a lot newer building too as well. And, probably not as much history supporting that, and probably not on any intergalactic ley line or something like Bamberg is or something. But
no, we're just on the high tax line.
Yeah, the high tax line, absolutely. But I think I thought it was troubling at first. It was really it really made me nervous. For you. Well, I was just waiting on it, at that point. So, the anxiety kicks in and it exactly does what you said it did to you, is that the first unexplainable thing leads to another. Then at a certain point, you're questioning how much are things and how much is your brain.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have to really kind of decipher what's out, and whether or not it was an actual spirit or whatever, you laying the law down and giving it the direction it needed to give, whether it was both internally and externally focused is what I'm saying. So it was focused externally and maybe they left, but it was also internally focused, so it solved the problem. And it just is what it is. But those are things that you will experience. Well, we've been running almost an hour doing this, just sitting here talking.
Yeah.
And we are excited, as you can tell. We are anxious to get out there and do more things. And we are blessed to be given this opportunity. I think that's the way I can put it. And so, Jeremy, you have anything else?
No, just thank you for listening. Like Joey said, we've got a lot of ground to cover, and we look forward to going forward with this. And I can't wait to see where it takes us, what we get to uncover, the stories we may get to tell, the things we may encounter. So with that being said, if you guys have any locations around South Carolina Lowcountry, or know of anybody who needs a helping hand in the paranormal, then please send us a message at deadsouthpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to look us up on YouTube, Dead South Paranormal. We thank you guys for listening, and give us a like, leave us a review. It'll help out the show a lot. We appreciate it. And